back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm gonna be making the Cinnabon cinnamon rolls. Trust me, they are amazing. They taste exactly like them, if not better. So let's get on to the recipe. We're measuring in grams because this recipe has to be very precise. We're gonna start off with 580 grams of all-purpose flour, 107 grams of granulated sugar. All of the ingredients and their measurements are gonna be in the description box if you wanna follow along. You're gonna need 3/4 teaspoon of salt. You're gonna need 84 grams of cubed butter. It needs to be softened and cubed, as you can see here. And you're gonna want 235 grams of milk. And you're also gonna wanna grab 2.5 teaspoons of yeast. I'm using instant yeast, but any yeast will do. Now you're gonna need 2 eggs and 1 egg yolk. And you see here, to remove the egg whites from the egg yolk, I'm using the jiggle method, which you basically move the yolk from shell to shell until all of the whites drip into this cup that I have, and sadly we're gonna throw those away. But then you're gonna need 225 grams of brown sugar. So I measured 225 grams of granulated sugar, and I added to it 2 tablespoons of molasses because I did not find brown sugar at the store. So I just made it from scratch. You just grab sugar, molasses, depending on the darkness of the brown sugar that you want. I wanted it here pretty dark. Actually, no, I wanted it a light brown sugar, so I added only 2 tablespoons. If you want it dark, you can add 3 or 4. And that's basically how you make brown sugar. And then I added 2.5 tablespoons of cinnamon powder. And then I added another 84 grams of butter. This is for a different cause. Cubed and softened as well. And I used 115 grams of cream cheese. You can find this at the nearest hypermarket or the nearest store next to you. And you're also gonna need 90 grams of powdered sugar. And again, I don't have powdered sugar, so I just grabbed some sugar. I grabbed 90 grams of granulated sugar and I blended it up in a food processor until it was powder, as you can see in this next clip. I'm gonna zoom in. And look at that. It's literally powdered sugar. This is why I stopped buying powdered sugar, because I can just make it with the exact amount that I want and there's never a leftover. And you're also gonna need 3 tablespoons of milk for the glaze. Now, let's start. You're gonna add the salt to the flour. I know this is a lot of ingredients, but trust me, trust the process. You're gonna add the salt to the flour, and then you're gonna add the flour to a big mixing bowl, as you can see here. And I'm gonna link the recipe down below. And you're also gonna add the first 84 grams of butter to the flour. It should be very soft. And then you're gonna keep rubbing it into the flour with your hands until it creates this sandy texture. It's like you're touching sand. It's like when you hold the flour and you crunch it up in your hand, it stays in the flour. It stays in the shape that you put it in. But it's also kind of grainy. It's basically sand. And then you're gonna grab the milk. I'm gonna grab the 4th cup of milk, and you're gonna add the yeast to it. The 235 grams of milk, and you're gonna add the yeast to it, and then you're gonna add it to the flour, and you're gonna mix it up. You can add milk as you go, so that if the dough is too dry, you add some more milk. If the dough is too hard, if the dough is too liquidy, you can add some more flour. Just mess around with it. It all depends on the humidity of where you live and the kind of flour that you're using. And after you add the milk and yeast mixture, and after it's actually mixed well, you're gonna add the 2 eggs and the 1 egg yolk. It's gonna be kind of a process to get it to mix in. You can use a spatula. I found it easier to actually use a plastic spoon until it was very well mixed. It was very sticky, which it should be very sticky. And you're gonna flour your hand. You're gonna heavily flour the surface that you're using, and you're gonna knead the dough out. It's gonna be it's gonna be very sticky. I'm just letting you know. So this is why you should really flour your surface. And After that, you're just gonna, roll it into a small ball and oil the bowl that you're using. And then you're just gonna brush it out, and you're gonna add the dough ball into the bowl that you're using. You're gonna cover it up with aluminum foil. Cover it up with aluminum foil and let that rise for 2 hours or until it's doubled in size. And when it's doubled in size, you just pour it out. It actually takes a while. Like if you're doing this in winter, it's gonna take a couple of hours. It can even take overnight if the weather is very cold where you live. If you do it in summer, it's gonna rise pretty fast. So it all depends on the weather the country and the weather and the humidity. This is all what dough depends on. And right after it's rising, you're just gonna punch it down and you're gonna roll it out into a triangular-ish shape. It doesn't have to be perfectly triangular. You're gonna cut off the ends anyway. I kind of struggled because I couldn't find my rolling pin that day, so I actually had to use my very tiny hands to do that. And after you roll the rectangle out, you're going to add the softened 84 grams of butter to it. Make sure it's spreaded till every single edge of the rectangle, because you want it to be very buttery. And then you're gonna add the brown sugar. You're gonna kind of pack it in. Like after I added it, I kind of pressed it down with my hands to make sure that it was really in there. And then I added the cinnamon. It's a lot of cinnamon, but trust me, it's amazing. And here's a mistake I did. I didn't actually flour my surface very well, so in the second half of the cinnamon roll, you would actually see that it's actually very messed up. But I kind of found out how to fix that rolling up. So yeah, don't do my mistake. Heavily flour your surface before you roll anything out, or else it will stick. So now I'm gonna grab some leftover butter and I'm going to, spread it out into a stainless steel non-stick pan. I know everybody's like, it's non-stick, why are you spreading butter? Actually, you should spread butter even if it is non-stick. It's just a necessity because, it's like, it goes without saying, you need to butter the surface that you're using even if it's non-stick. And here's what I did with the edges. I created them into a little dough ball and it was actually very good. Now, don't cut with a serrated knife like I did, just use this thread method. You just grab a little bit of sewing thread underneath, cross it over, pull it until it's, cutted. It does not change the shape of the cinnamon roll. It does not do like anything weird to it. It does not smush it down. It's the easiest method to use. Now, as you can see, the pan that I was using was too big, so I transferred them into a smaller pan. And this is how I created the small dough ball. And I added aluminum foil to the empty part so that the cinnamon rolls do not spread out, they don't spread out into, the pan, and they're going to be very weird. Now, we're making the glaze. We're going to add the cream cheese and the powdered sugar, mix it up super well, and to that you're going to add the 3 tablespoons of milk and mix that up super well. Now you can see me here grabbing a little taste for myself because your girl deserves it. She actually worked very hard for this recipe. Now we're going to bake it in a 180-degree oven for 25 to 30 minutes. Or until they're just crispy golden brown on top. It doesn't really have a time, but this is how long they took. It depends on the strength of your oven. And oh my god, when it's out, just add the glaze on top. It's so freaking good, and like you need to try this. It's my family, when they tried it, they were like, these are even better than cinnamon rolls, and I was like, well, they are kind of crusty. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. If you want to make it, you can post it on Instagram or Facebook. You can tag me over there at Kitchenetic Official. Both accounts, both platforms, same username. Hope you enjoyed this recipe. Bye bye.